So this is slightly off topic, but interesting for developers maybe. So I'm just talking about my development environment for Predbats. It's pretty basic actually. So I'm running a MacBook Pro, quite an old one actually, and I've got Visual Studio Code running on the system. So this is the free one, but I have actually downloaded on the add-in side. I've actually added GitHub Copilot, which is the new sort of AI coding, and then I've also got the standard sort of Python modules in here. Yeah, Copilot I've added there, for example. These are unrelated Docker and Platform IO I'm not actually using for this. Marlin's for my 3D printer. And then the source control, actually, I'm not using it at the moment, but it does link to GitHub if you need to. Yeah, so it's a pretty basic standard environment here. And one of the things you'll notice is if you start typing in the code and you make some mistakes, for example, then eventually the in the background it's analysing the file, and you'll see that something will go on and it shows some errors here. So this is immediately finding the problems, which is quite nice. The other thing to notice is this is GitHub Copilot, so it's got some AI coding stuff going on here. So hopefully once this error goes away, it can take a little bit of a while to reanalyze the file. Actually, to make this completely build, I had to make sure I got the right libraries installed. So I actually had to install this app base and the app daemon libraries into my Mac. I used brew to install those things, and then I think I used a Python 3 pip install to install the Python modules. So so let's say I wanted to add a new config item in here. You want the comma in there. So let's say the name. Now look at GitHub Copilot's making up names of things I might want to add here. Let's add Sunday mode to this. Friendly names, Sunday mode. There you go. Autocomplete. Type switch. Is Sunday mode a switch? Probably. Yeah. Default false. There we go. GitHub Copilot's filled it all in for me. Isn't that nice? Now let's go and find where we get expert mode from. So expert mode is mentioned in the enables quite a lot of times in the code, but later on in the code where it's used, let's go something like self-start Sunday mode. So now you're going to get the autocomplete. So GitHub Copilot says I make that false. Yeah, that makes sense. And oops, self.expert mode. We're looking for that. So in fetch config options, I found something that fetches the config. So let's try start typing Sunday mode equals up, and there GitHub Copilot's filled it all in for me. Sunday mode is Sunday mode. It's an incredibly clever system, and in fact it can do quite a few different WYSI things. So let's try writing a function now, something like is it a Sunday, for example. Now if I start by documenting it, this function returns true if it is Sunday, inputs none, output true if it's Sunday, false otherwise. And look here, Copilot suggested some code for me. So if self now UTC weekday equals 6, so is weekday 6 Sunday? Or is that incorrect? This is the point where I'd have to find out what weekdays are, because it may not be true. Let's have a look. So I just googled that, and surprisingly enough, weekday 6 is Sunday and must start from 0. So now that's all written pretty much by GitHub Copilot being clever. So is there any other things that we can do on here? So generate docs, I think I've already done that, but you can, it hasn't suggested any additional documentation for me, but so these are the sort of smart things that it will do for you. What about if we wanted to find out whether the charge window is on a Sunday or something? So scan charge windows for Sunday. So let's have windows. So this function takes a list of charge windows and sees which one is Sunday. Inputs array of charge windows, outputs and now I'm starting to do tab complete. If window 0 equals 6, no, that's not right at all. So now you have to actually start helping it. So start equals window start, for example. End is window end. If self, is it a Sunday? Well, no, that's not quite right either, because that's just saying if today is Sunday. So it kind of guesses the code for you, but it's not always right. But it is very clever. And I certainly recommend having a play around with this, so you can have it on the free trial. Anyway, I'm going to delete that now. See if I can show you one of the other things that it can do. Let's say this function we haven't documented very well. Let's try documenting that. So go copilot, generate docs. Let that run for a minute. And its suggestion here for the documentation is this method is responsible for publishing energy rate data and thresholds. It first checks those discharging windows, blah, blah, blah. Now you have to read this all through and see whether it's actually true or whether it's made a mistake in doing it. One thing that's a bit weird is when you do that, it changes the indent level of the code and you actually have to put it back again. So the other thing about dev environment, once I hit the save button, I can go to my log file, go to the end of the log file, and I can do a refresh, and you can see it starts to run immediately, and I can look at the logs. So these files are mounted through a Samba mount directly onto Home Assistant. So if you install the Samba on Home Assistant, but you can see there aren't any errors here, and it's running okay. So I think you can actually talk to GitHub as well, GitHub Copilot as well in the chat, which is interesting. So if I start inline chat, then you can actually ask it to do things like, can you refactor this function, and then it'll see what it can do. So that seems to be rewriting the documentation again, but it's rewritten the refactored one of it. So what has it done there? Has it written the same thing again, or has it changed it? Well, I'm not sure it's actually changed it there. I think it's just written the same thing again, so I don't think we want that. But sometimes it can actually refactor things. So let's try make this code shorter. So it's done something here, then it's just moved that second if on top of the first one. But it's in, so if I accept that change, all it's done there is move that if into that if. So it has actually made it shorter, which is clever. Anyway, obviously here this is the standard sort of Python system where you hover over it, it's telling you what's going on here as well. So anyway, maybe if you get time, have a play around with it. It's good. GitHub Copilot's good fun, and it can be very useful. Combined with VS Code and the Python plugin, it's certainly a recommended environment.